Welcome to another Digital Dimensions CADcast. Today we're going to be talking about what's new in 2013 for features. I'm your host, Maurice Charian. So here's the agenda. So first I'm going to be going over the Edge Selection toolbar that's now available for constant and variable radius fillets. It's the same toolbar that's available in Fillet Expert, in the Fillet Expert command. Next I'm going to be going over the new enhanced support for thin extrusions. So this works on boss and cut extrusions, and this is going to allow you to use multiple open contours for thin extrusions. So I'm also going to be going over the new dowel hole option in the hole wizard for normal through holes. Next I'm going to be going over the new feature called intersect. So it's a nice new feature where you can use things like solids, surface bodies, and planes to create different kinds of geometry. In this case, I think of it as like a combined feature with basically like a cut with surface and replace face type of functionality all rolled into one. Then the next thing I'm going to show you is how to select end conditions outside in the graphics area, not always having to go back to the property manager. You can change the end conditions or the direction, and you can get to that same functionality in the graphics area when you edit a feature. And that's available for extruded and revolved solid and surface features, and also sheet metal base flange features. The next thing I'm going to be going over is varying dimension patterns. This is available for feature patterns, and it's available for circular and linear patterns. So you can change the spacing between instances and also the size of instances, and you can actually modify the instances one by one directly in the pattern directly. And lastly, I'm going to go over the new enhanced support for mounting bosses. You can now have fastener type of bosses where you have a head side and a thread side. So before it was just a pin and hole, now you actually can have fasteners, a fastener type head and thread side bosses now. So I'm going to go over SOLIDWORKS and show you this functionality. I'll start with the Edge Selection toolbar. So I have a part here ready to go. Now when you go to fillets, you do not have to go to Fillet Expert to get to that nice edge selection tool. So if I pick an edge here, you'll see I have lots of different options, and this looks just like the Fillet Expert. So here's 3 edges, here's 11, all the ones on the top face, here's all the ones associated with that feature there, so there's 7 edges. This one's got 3, and then here's 23 edges, all the ones on the top, and here is basically the select all 43 edges. So maybe I'll pick the ones associated with that one part there. So you can see it picked all those edges there very quickly. And I'll show it again here. So fillet. And again, it's available for constant radius and variable radius fillets. I'll pick my edge, and then you can see I can pick multiple options here. So maybe I'll pick those 2 at the same time. So edge selection toolbar, you don't have to go into the Fillet Expert to select those edges very quickly. I'll go back to the slides now. So the next thing I want to show you is enhanced support for thin extrusions. This is going to be available for cut and boss extrudes, so boss and cut extrusions, and this is going to be available for thin features, and it's going to have some nice new functionality. So let me show you that. So I have a part here that's just got some sketches in it, and one of the things you couldn't use before with a thin was you couldn't have a T intersection or a Y type of intersection, but now that is available to you. So this is available with extruded boss base, and extruded cuts. So I'll pick extrude, and now I'll zoom in so you can see this a little bit better. I'm going to pick mid-plane, and you can see right away once I put my mouse down here under the selected contours, now you can see now I can get that T intersection that wasn't available before. So I'll start with that one. So you can see that's something that wasn't available before 2013. Again, extruded boss base, and Now this is another one, basically the same type of intersection here. Once I move my mouse down here, then I have all this stuff available to me. Now this doesn't look real good till I go to midplane here, but you can see I can do the Y type of intersection. I can pick multiple edges here, so you can see I can pick, you know, Y, T type intersections. Here's a circle here now with these different edges in here. The one limitation I did find on this is when you pick a circle and select thin, that works. And that works. But if you go to midplane and you pick the circle and the triangle, this intersection where these three connect, it doesn't work unless you go to one direction. And now you can see what's going to look like. This actual triangle will get filled in, and it depends, I think, on how thick you make it. But even if you make it thinner, you can see it will create it. It will make this a solid, and there's another thin. So you can see T intersections, Y, multiple open contours are now available with that thin extrude boss or the thin extrude cut. So that's some nice new functionality. So I'm going to go back to the slides again. So now I'm going to show you now the dowel hole option that's now available in the hole wizard hole. So part of what's nice about this is it will show the dowel symbols in the drawings. So let me go back to SOLIDWORKS and show you that. So here's a part. I've already have a couple of sketch points in here ready to go, so I can speed up the process here. So I'll go to hole wizard, and now it's going to be available under the through hole. So here's hole. I'm going to pick, in this case, you can see here's the new type. Here's dowel holes, and it does have, you know, different sizes here. I'll go with a 1-inch hole. I got ANSI inch turned on. So here's the fit. So I'm used to, you know, using press fit, but here's nominal, clearance, transitional. So different, in this case, fit types, but also there's also different hole fit and shaft fit classifications if you wanted to use that. So everything's the same except for that you're picking the hole, the dowel type. So I'll pick position, and I'll just place 3 of these here on these existing points since they're ready to go. And so just a standard hole wizard hole. But now what's neat about this is that if I bring up the drawing, so here's my drawing. I've already had a couple views already in here. So I'll bring in a projected view. And what's nice about this projected view is as soon as I place it, you can now see those dowel hole symbols automatically get placed in there. So that's pretty nice. Nice convenient functionality there. So that's nice they added that. So I'm going to go back to the slides here. And now this is going to be one of my favorite new features here is the intersect tool. So I'm going to show you 3 different examples of this one. The intersect tool, it's nice because it works with, you can throw the kitchen sink at it. It works with solids, surfaces, and planes. So solid body, surface body, and planes. You can have it consume surfaces so you don't have to delete the body, so that saves some time. So I really think of this command as a cut with surface, replace face, split, and the combine bodies feature all rolled into one. So this can save you, 1, 2, 3, up to maybe 4 features because you can do so much with it and all in one feature. So let's go back to SOLIDWORKS and I can show you some of these examples. So the first example is just, I'm going to cut out, you can actually see the finished product here. So here I'm just cutting a solid disc here, solid body. It does have a hole in the middle here, and it has a whole bunch of planes. So the command, first off, it's not under the command manager. So if you ever want to look for a command, just go up to the search box up here, and here is command search. So if I type in intersect, you'll see here it is. You can drag it over if you never used this command before, this function. This is new for 2012, this search tool. Here's show command location. So without me touching anything, you can see it shows with the red arrow where that command is. So intersect lets you throw planes, solids, and surface bodies into the mix here. So I picked, in this case, 6 planes and the solid. I'll hit intersect, and now you pick what you want to keep, or in this case, if you invert select, you pick what you want to remove. So whatever is red means that's going to be removed. So I can actually invert select that. So now if you see green, green means go, that means it's going to be kept. Red means it's going to be removed. So as soon as I hit OK, you can see it'll cut that out very quickly. And the intersect command has also in here merge results. If those touch, you can have them merge together, or consume surfaces too. So there's the first example. So you can see I can use this basically almost like a split tool, but you can split multiple bodies or split into multiple bodies using planes, solids, or surface bodies. So that's the first example. A little more exciting example is this one here, and this is a part that has 2 bodies. So here's just a standard disc looking part again. This one has a little bit of an indentation. So there's the solid, but it also has a surface body. Now the surface body does have, you can see it's hollowed out, it has a little bit of text here, so you can see what this looks like. Now I'll turn them both back on. Now if I look at a cross-section view, you'll really be able to see what's going on here. I'm going to combine these two together and intersect them together. I'm going to add material here, remove material, add, remove, and add. So I'm going to be adding and removing material with the same command. So it's pretty nice to do stuff like this where you're combining something that overlaps, and it's going to knit it together and create a solid body after it's all done. So I'll just go to recent commands, and here's intersect. So I'll pick my solid and the surface. So surface and solid, and then again if I wanted to, I can throw some planes in here if I wanted to. In this case, just to keep it simple, I'll leave that out, but you can see it'll let you add that in there. So what's nice about this is I'll just hit intersect, and now you'll see I have 4 regions. So I'll just pick that one little channel here on the bottom to leave that out. You can see it turns it red or pink, and you see the rest of them are green. And once I say OK, now you can see now the surface body's still there, so that's not a glitch. It's just showing the 2 different surface colors there. And that intersect command, to save me one more step, is I can say consume surfaces, so that makes me not have to delete that construction geometry. Now the best way to really show what happened is to show that cross-section view again. You can see how nice that is. Now here it is before, and you can see what it looks like before, and here it is after. It creates one solid, and you can see it remove material and add material. So it did a lot with that one command. I don't have to stitch, I don't have to use a combine command to clean it up, and I don't have to use delete body to remove that surface. So you can see I really think that's a great new feature. Alright, so one more example. In this example, you actually can see, if you go to the what's new guide, and you can see it'll show the same example. So this part is actually came from this cavity and core, if you can believe that. So here's some mold tooling here. So here's the core, here's the cavity, and let me show a cross-section view so you can see what it looks like here. So when I turn off that move body command here, you can see what it looks like. So these do actually touch. Here it does hold water. So what I wanted to show was that these 2 cavity and core tools here, they do actually touch. Now what's neat about this is I can use these two bodies to reverse engineer the part from this. So again, I go over to intersect, I pick the two solids, and as soon as I hit intersect, all of a sudden it went from two bodies to three regions. So I just pick what I want to remove. In this case, I'll pick those two, and you can see the green one is the one I want to keep. I'll say OK, and now I've just reverse engineered that molded part from the cavity and the core. Now, one last thing, if you've ever worked with plastic parts, you know that you have to allow for shrinkage. So in this case, this part would be a little bit smaller than that. So if I go over to insert features, here is the scale command. If you've never used it before, I usually use centroid. In this case, if you want to make it bigger, you put something more than 1. In this case, I'm going to knock it down to say 2 or 3% shrinkage. So I'll put in 0.97, and that'll make it smaller. So to see that, I'll just roll back here. So there it is at 100%. Here it is 3% smaller. So now you have a reverse engineered part. So pretty cool stuff. That again is the intersect command. I'm going to go back to the slides now. So the next thing I'm going to show you is selecting end conditions for extruded features, which means you don't have to always go over to the property manager to set your end condition. You can change the direction or change your end condition, and this works on solid and surface extrudes and revolves and even sheet metal base features. So I'll go back to SOLIDWORKS, and now here's a part we used before for the edge selection. I have a couple sketches turned on now. So I'll start with an example of an extruded boss here. So if I right click, I can say up to surface, I can say through all, blind, so I can reverse the direction too. So I'll reverse the direction, and I'll give it a blind value here. Now if I right click, I can just go ahead and say OK. I don't ever have to go over to the property manager to accept it. Now another example of that would be this one. I'll do an up to surface. I'll right click, and I can say, I'll say up to surface, and you can see I can pick up to surface, I can pick up to next if I want to. You can see that I'm always used to going over here. I don't have to. I can just go right over here and just say OK. I don't always have to go over to the property manager. What's nice about this is I can go back to edit feature, and I can always right click, and I can say up to surface, and then I can pick a surface here, and I can accept it. Here I can just say OK, and now I just accepted that. So you can very quickly change this and not have to go to the property manager over here. So I can just say OK or cancel right from here, from the graphics area. So save you from some back and forth from always having to go to the property manager. So some nice new functionality to make you a little bit more efficient. So now I'm going to go back to the slides. So two more things to show you. The next thing is varying dimension patterns. So for circular and linear patterns, for features, you can vary the dimension, you can vary the spacing of your instances, you can vary the size, and you can even individually change some of these instances with the height, width, length of extrusions or cuts. And again, this works in circular and linear patterns. So I'll go back to SOLIDWORKS and show you that. So the first example is a linear pattern, and part of what's neat about this is that I have it getting taller and I have it getting more narrow, so you can actually go, you can make it bigger or smaller. You can change the spacing too. So how did I make that? I went to linear pattern, and it only works on features, so you can't use it on bodies or faces. I'll set the direction, so again it works on features, and now where the new button is down here, instances to vary. Now you can change the spacing. So right now I have the spacing set at 100 millimeters apart. I got 4 of them in here. So everything's the same as before, but when I click on varying instances, I can change the spacing here. So it's 100, 120, 140. So I can change the spacing that way. And then here's some of the new functionality too, is I choose one of my dimensions. In this case I'll pick the height. I can select in here and I'll pick 20, and if I turn on the full preview, you can start to see what it's going to do. So it's going to make it bigger, or it's going to make it taller as I go. I'll accept that so you can see that a little bit better. So I'm making it taller, and I have the spacing in there, and I can change the spacing to just be normal, but now I have the spacing in there. I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see it better. So you can see how the spacing changes. I can also add more to it. So for example, I can add, I'll make this thing wider as we go too. And I'll go back to the full preview. So it's actually starting to spill off the side here. So you can see what it looks like. And I can even make it get longer too as I go. So I'll move my mouse down here and I'll add that. So I'll show all the 3 dimensions being changed. So let's see what that looks like. So you can see now it's getting longer as we go. If I wanted to make it grow in both directions, I would just go back into the sketch, and for time purposes I won't do it right now, but to just explain it, I would just change this dimension from the top, just move this leader down to where it's in the center line, and then you can make this thing grow in both directions. So what else is neat about this pattern is if I go back in here and say edit pattern, I can actually pick an instance and I can skip it just like I could before, but here's modify. So the first dimension was the height. I changed it by 30, so maybe I'll change it by 50, and once I say OK here, so I change the increment, change the spacing. So now let's turn on the full preview here so you can see this a little better. So you can see the spacing is actually the same as the one next to it. So go modify instance. And you can see you can make some very irregular type patterns here. Now to change it back to where the pattern is consistently varied, I just go to edit, and this is all part of the new functionality here. Is I go back down to here and you can see modified instances. If I just clear that out and then say OK to that, now you can see now I'm back to flowing with the same varying geometry between all of them, and they're all consistent. So that's the vary instances, and so that's the new vary dimension pattern. So let's go show you one more here. So this pattern almost looks like a set of stairs here, but you can see it's changing the spacing and it's getting bigger as you go. This one's a little bit closer together so you can see it better. So I have it stair stepping down as it's rotating. Now the setup on this one was I created a thin feature. In that thin feature, if you've never used this command, I used in this case a command called, or an end condition called offset from surface. So you can see it's 10 from the top here. And so it's offset from surface, not up to surface. And now when I go over to pattern, I go to circular pattern. And usually I use a temporary axis, but I can use a circular edge. I pick my feature, and then everything's going to look the same. Equal spacing will get turned off when I turn on the instances to vary. So you will have to do the math on that. Now in this case, I can change the increments. I have them set to 15 degrees apart. I'll add 5 more degrees. So, and then I'll also add that dimension, that offset from distance, offset from surface, and so maybe I'll make that 5 millimeters. Now if I go to full preview, you'll be able to see it. I'm going to go ahead and accept it so you can see it better, but you can change those instances on this one too. So you can see it's going 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So I have it changing the spacing, and I have it getting smaller because I'm changing the offset from this top surface here. So pretty cool functionality. And again, you can always go in here and you can still skip instances like you could before, and you can modify them. I can override the value of the spacing and also the distance between the top surface. So very customizable and very configurable. So pretty nice stuff. So let's go back to the slides. So the last thing I want to show you is the enhanced support for mounting bosses. So before, you could only make pin and hole type of mounting bosses for plastic type of parts. Now you can actually have fasteners where it would put a through hole on the top of your plastic part or whatever kind of enclosure you're making, and so you have a head side and thread side mounting boss. Now to show you this a little bit better, I have a couple screenshots. So for 2012, you had the pin and hole mounting type of bosses. Now you still have the pin and hole, but you also now have this hardware boss where you can have a through hole down to where the threads go in. So this is where you can see the screenshot I have here. You can actually have a through hole and a fastener to go through here. So you can see the fastener type of boss is now available to you. And they also made it a little bit easier to understand all the different dimensions, and there's more dimensions available. So let me show you that. I have a part here, and I actually have a cross section showing this is the pin and head. This is the pin and hole functionality that was available before to you. Now the new fastener style, you can see it has a through hole going down to where they intersect and meet up, and then here's the threads here, so you can see what that geometry looks like. So that's pretty nice. Now let me go ahead and show you how to create that. So I just made a couple different configs to quickly show this. I've placed a couple points here to help speed this up. So I have a couple points here. I'm going to start with the top section here. So if you've never used this fastening feature, it's part of this whole group here. One is called lip and groove, and I use the lip and groove to create the outside, this cutout here for that. So I use that too. So here's mounting boss. So I'm going to pick that point to get started, and you can start to see, looks like a rocket ship here, but here's the boss, and it wants me to set a height, or I can pick a mating surface. So in this case, I'll pick this face. I could type in a value if I want to. What's also nice about this is you can see how they lay this out. It's a little bit easier to read these dimensions now. Now before, you only had the pin type where it was pin or the hole. Now in this case, you have the hardware boss, and I'm going to start with the head here, and what that's going to do is it's going to remove material on the top so you can get the screw in there to get the fastener in here. So now the last thing I need to do is I need to set the direction of the fin. So I'll pick one of these edges here, and that'll set the direction. You can have more fins, you can make them bigger and stuff like that. So I'll take some of the values that are already in there, so you can see what that's going to look like. I'm going to say okay to that, and I'm going to turn back on the bottom of the part here. So now The neat thing about this is that now you can see it put the hole in there. So you can see the hole. So I put that in. So that's some of the new functionality. So let me go ahead and finish off and put the rest of it in there. And now I'll go back in there again. So insert fastening feature. So mounting boss. So since I've already placed the first one, I can even use that circular edge again to get started. I'll put I'll use the point again that I had before. Now some of the other nice things that are nice about this is that you can see when I go to pick this, I'll pick the thread side of it. Now it says here enter boss height or select the mating face. So I'll pick the mating face here, and I'll pick that face right there. And now I can adjust some of the settings. Again, I can set the fin direction with picking one of these flat edges, and I can make more fins if I want to. So now let's see what this is going to look like when it's done. I'll go ahead and say OK. And let's look at that cross section again. So you can see now what it looks like. You can have a gap in here. You can see how now there's a through hole down to where the fastener meets up. So pretty nice functionality. And this again is really nice for people that make plastic parts. And again, that's under insert feature or insert fastening feature. Here's mounting boss. So now you can have that fastener through hole on one half of it automatically placed in there for you. So thank you very much for watching this CADcast. My name is Maurice Cherian. Thanks again for watching this CADcast. Look for more 2013 What's New CADcast and other tech tips on our website at ddicad.com. Thank you very much.